This is Tankobon episode 38. This week we'll be going over Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 2, as well as some kind of end of the year awards we've cooked up. I'm Cole Greco, and joining me as usual is my co-host, Jude Knoll. Jude, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Last night I was driving home from the Renaissance Fair, the Ohio Renaissance Fair, in Cincinnati, does this yearly Christmas festival thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not really a Renaissance Fair type of person. I was never super into Tolkien or traditional fantasy type stuff, but for some reason I enjoy going there every year because I don't know, it's a weird subculture that only exists in person. There aren't a lot of forums or subreddits for that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. It really just only exists in the real world. I feel like it has the same sort of ethos as a DIY punk scene, but perhaps it's even more punk. There's no Bandcamp. Yeah. No labels. People just doing it for the love of what they do. Mm-hmm. And it's super cringy, but it can be kind of fun as well. But anyway, I was driving home from it with my girlfriend, and we were listening to this pop punk Christmas playlist on Apple Music. And it ended up landing on the Reliant K Christmas album. And we realized Reliant K made one of the greatest Christmas albums of all time. Hands down. I don't know if I've listened to that one, but I played that one that had the flower on it a lot back in the day, and Reliant K actually kind of rips. They have some tracks. Yeah, it's a lot of the pop punk Christmas songs are they're really funny, and they work in a novelty kind of way, like Fountains of Wayne, I Want an Alien for Christmas. It's a classic because it's funny. But the Reliant K tracks were actually they had crazy breakdowns. They were harmonizing super well. They were reinventing these classic carols in a way that I could listen to these on their own outside of the the context of the holiday season. Shout out to them. Yeah, it's one of those ones where I don't know what they're called, but my dad used to put them on all the time. It's these just kind of alt rock or indie rock bands would cover Christmas songs, and so it's this compilation that had I don't know, there was a Smashing Pumpkins song on there's a No Doubt song on there. I forget what it's called, and it's got this artwork by this pretty famous artist. It's one of those things it's
that
Keith Haring guy.
I was gonna say it's one of those things
man.
If you you'd know it if you saw it kind of deal. But he used to put those on, and those are actually pretty good. You just kind of have them on the background. I'm not a big Christmas music guy. I mean, I'm not one of these people who's whatever. Oh, Christmas music sucks, I hate it. But I'm not going out of my way to put any Christmas songs on. But those were actually, those were pretty solid. The other good one from that scene is August Burns Red used to do instrumental covers of Christmas songs. They're pretty sick too.
Yeah, that Smashing Pumpkins one is totally classic. It's so funny because it's not really a novelty Christmas song, but it's not a traditional religious Christmas song. It's the ultimate secular Christmas song. It's just about receiving presents, but it's super sentimental, to almost cloying extent. I love that song. It's so stupid, but it's great.
So last year at this time, I was doing this 1001 albums to listen to before you die thing. There was a website that would generate them during every workday. Yeah. And so on Christmas Eve, it gave me the what is it, I think it's Phil Spector, the producer who I think he ended up stabbing someone or something like that. He has this really famous Christmas album that it generated that one, and I was not about it. It was not my thing.
Oh man, I actually really like that album. It's he was definitely an influence on a lot of the indie bands that were popping in the early to mid 2000s, but it's definitely corny too.
Yeah, it's just one of those things I don't know. I could see why people like it and why it's whatever the only Christmas album on that list. But I'm not listening to the Roxannes or whatever they're called. not my genre.
I'm really curious to see, because like I feel like I guess we were still both reading Shonen Jump last year, but I'm curious to see if any of the series in the magazine are going to do anything Christmas related this year, because I feel like they don't really, unless it's a comedy series, and even then maybe it'll just be like a color page. But I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, we don't really have any series that don't sort of go along with like their own kind of timeline. Like I think Magu-chan would do stuff like that. Like I feel like Magu-chan probably had a couple Christmas chapters because it didn't seem to like conform to our time frame or its own time frame. It went along with ours. But I think everything else is sort of on its own thing. Like in High School Family, they're in summer right now. Me and Roboco, I don't know. Me and Roboco might. But that's the only other one.
Witch Watch, I wish Witch Watch would do it, but they're like canonically in the early fall right now, or like late summer, which is a shame because like Sket Dance managed to at least do one Christmas arc before like it ended up ending, but I think that was just because it happened that like real Christmas and the in-story Christmas like lined up sort of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that was more of a fluke than anything.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like we'll probably get some of them at some point. Like Assassination Classroom did the it's kind of combined Christmas New Year's chapter.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll get like a Witch Watch Christmas one in July or something.
That would be sick.
All right. Well, do we want to hop into some of these chapter discussions and go over the table of contents?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right. So the lead color page or lead cover for issue number 2 is me and Roboco, with color pages from Fabricant 100, Akana Banashi, and PPP. In the number 1 slot is Witch Watch, followed by One Piece, Sakamoto Days, My Hero Academia, and then Blue Box to round out the top 5. Then we get 2 of our new series, Cypher Academy and Ichigoki's Under Control. At number 6 is The Elusive Samurai. Then we have our our fourth new series, the Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins. At number 7 is Mission Yozakura Family. Then Ginka and Gluna, Hunter x Hunter, and Undead Unluck to finish off the top 10. And then our bottom 3 slots are High School Family, Tokyo Demon Bride Story, and Mashal, with Black Clover and Ruri Dragon both being absent this week. So let's see. Don't really have much for most of these color pages, but me and Roboco getting a cover is pretty sick.
Just absolute sweep right now. Me and Roboco, first manga to sell 1 billion copies. Let's go.
Yep. I also saw they hit their crowdfunding thing for their train advertisements.
Oh, that's crazy. Me and Roboco's power is just like people underestimate it here, but me and Roboco can achieve anything it sets its mind on.
Yep.
Like who would have thought that it'd be here like 100 chapters later, getting full wrapped like train advertisements, getting an anime. It's doing numbers on TikTok. Like me and Roboco. It's Roboco's world, and we're all living in it right now.
100%. I love it for me and Roboco. The artist has to just be like, I don't know, totally bewildered. There's no way they thought that this series was gonna be getting cover pages, number 1 slots. Like that has to be awesome.
Yeah. I think he's like excited. Like obviously anybody would be, but he's really taking advantage of it by just like putting the most absurd stuff in the manga right now.
Yeah.
Like it's breaking the fourth wall, but it's also like actually like bleeding into the real world.
Yep. I wish no one over here got the license to the Me and Roboco anime, so I haven't been able to watch it yet. And I like search and search. I'm sure it's on, I don't know, maybe if I really like dug deep to some like pirate site, maybe I could find it. But like no one's subbed it or anything like that. And it's also not something that I think people are like super into. So I'd be, there's a chance that like the only way you can watch it is if you have like a TV, like a cable subscription in Japan or something.
Yeah, I'm looking at this week's color page right now, though, and it's actually sick. It's just like a bunch. Robico's looking at a wall covered in TVs, and each TV has a screen cap from the first episode of the series.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, it's been getting a ton of cover pages. So it got did it get cover pages last week, or was it the week before?
I'm pretty sure it did.
No, last week we were looking. The week before it did, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we were looking during our breakdown, though, and it's getting like an insane amount of covers and color pages, and it's especially over the past few months too. It's been very concentrated to like recent months.
Yeah, I'm sure if you looked over the past 12 weeks, it's probably on par with, like Blue Box and Akana Banashi, and well above, Mashal, Undead Unluck, like Yozakura Family, all those series.
Yeah. And I think, my thoughts on Akana Banashi and PPP remain the same, but I do think it's worth talking about Fabricant 100. In my opinion, man, I hate this series.
Yeah, it's
already.
Terrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. I think for the first three, the standard was set pretty high. I know we kind of had mixed feelings about Ichigo He's Under Control.
Yeah.
And the first two were like very good to very solid.
Yeah.
But this one is just straight ass. Like, I think it might be Earthchild level.
Yeah, it was
or
one
worse.
Like, we were talking about it that we weren't super interested in checking it out last week we were talking, but I don't know, I'd sort of talked myself into it of like, okay, this could be cool. It's got, some neat visuals. Maybe there's some cool stuff they could do with it. But man, like the art is bad. I sent it to you in a text. There's a part where like the two main characters are kind of talking to each other, but then like they both get up at this table and they're looking directly at the reader for no reason. Like they're not talking to someone else outside of their conversation. So there's no reason they should be like turning their heads and looking, and they are. It's almost like the artist was like, I don't know how to draw these characters from like a side profile.
Yeah, they're pretty much always they have this permanent sort of blank expression on their faces. And whenever there's just like a sort of NPC type character, like someone that's not,
the
integral to the plot itself, they just look so generic.
Yep.
Like no expression, no distinguishing features except for maybe like a weird haircut. And we don't feel any connection to them at all.
No.
And the villains, I mean, like, so the concept of the story is kind of interesting. Like there was this like sort of Frankenstein mad scientist figure that creates a bunch of, hybrid or like chimera type humans and brings them back to life, and they've all escaped. And they killed the main character's family, and he's like trying to avenge his family. And he's teamed up with one of the, I guess, like good or less bad.
Well, I think it's, I think he's teamed up with like the strongest one, and it's sort of like if you help me get rid of all the other ones, I'll sort of, I'll let you can whatever take my body parts that you want to make yourself better or something like that is what I understood.
I don't really get that.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. There's obviously going to be some reason that he wasn't killed that's going to be revealed later on. But I don't really understand like what the Fabricant 100 gets from this partnership.
I think it's like they mentioned something. It's like, I don't know, when he grows up, he has whatever, because his family is rich kind of deal. Or it's like whatever, Promised Neverland, where like they're really smart, so their brains taste better kind of deal. I think it's something along those lines. So it's like, oh, when you're 16, we can kill you and it'll be even better than if I did it now and took your legs or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, is it worth her being his like servant or whatever for years just so she can like kill one person? I mean, we're barely into the story, but I feel like the stakes don't really make a lot of sense right now.
No.
And the art is kind of lazy too. Like there's one panel midway through where it shows like one of the sort of side characters talking to the main character, and his eyes just there are actually multiple panels where his eyes just like aren't drawn.
Yep.
And it's not really a stylized thing or like a shading thing. It's just like, oh, this guy, he is not important enough for us to like finish drawing. There's so many characters that are just like not fully drawn. Yeah. And, you know, it just doesn't bode well when this is the first chapter. This is the first impression we get, and this is the one they have like the most time to work on.
Yeah, the backgrounds
I'm just already like confused.
Yeah, the backgrounds are pretty sparse. This is not a great series, and the enemy designs are horrible. Like these, I was expecting, you know, you can do better than this. These are just normal people, and he like, you know, did cross hatching on part of their body. Like these aren't fun at all. They don't look that creepy. Like, you know, the demons in Demon Slayer or whatever, I thought all had like really cool designs and, you know, looked demonic. These people are just, I mean, this is like, hey, I need you to draw like a stitched together person. It's like, okay, this, you know, here's my first idea of it.
Yeah, because for me, this one could have been interesting. And like, for one, I was still only talking about the first chapter. Like, they could do other stuff, but like, I feel like this could be unique as a horror series because there aren't a lot of series in the magazine right now.
Yeah.
Not really any that are like horror themed. And I feel like based on the sort of like Victorian time period they're going for, the Frankenstein influence.
Yeah.
He's trying to do like a Junji Ito type of vibe, but he's not getting it at all.
No.
It looks more like goofy Halloween costumes than like monsters.
Yep.
It just does not work at all.
No, this might be one of the worst first chapters. This is worse than Earthchild's first chapter even. I mean, I know that people, you know, people would sort of go over the top with the first Earthchild chapter and be like, if it was a one shot, it would have been a 10 out of 10. That's not true. If it was a one shot, it would have been a 5 out of 10 at best. Fabricant 100, if it was a one shot, would be a 1 or a 2. This is horrible.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, at first I was kind of excited too because we have like a sort of, I thought it would be a Ryuk type of sidekick. It kind of is because there's like, you know, a sort of like quid pro quo situation, like agreement between the protagonist and this like weird being. But she has no personality yet, except that she's just like a doting mother type figure. And her design, it sucks. She's basically the mother from, what's the series? Promised Neverland, but just with like huge boobs. Yep. That's it.
Yep, there is one neat panel in here where she's punching the other fabricant thing or whatever, and the artist like at least made her look strong. Like she's got like, you know, the veins popping out and stuff. I'm down with that like, you know, we have like a strong looking female character. That's cool and a little bit different, but that's maybe the only like positive thing I can say about this series.
Yeah, and you know what? Like Roboco, she's basically like a less interesting version of Roboco. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if you just did the same chapter but replaced her with Roboco, it would already be better.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Yeah, this one's bad, man. I don't know. I was pretty disappointed. Like, even before, you know, because like I said, I wasn't like super excited for it, but I talked myself into it. I was like, okay, they could do this, or like, you know, there could be some cool ideas here. And then you sent me the text, you're like, this one's horrible already. And I was like, well, okay. I was like, maybe, but I was like, you know, we don't have, you know, our tastes don't line up 1-to-1. I was like, maybe I'll read it and be like, no, you know, it's got this. This is fun. And it was just, I mean, I was maybe 4 pages in. I was like, this sucks. Like, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's like objectively horrible, I think. And I don't like to throw that word around too often, but just like compared to any other series right now, it just doesn't do anything right. And I think the worst thing that it does is like emotions and any sort of like sentimentality. Like anytime they do a close up of a character that's supposed to just like, you know, convey their reaction to something that happens or how they feel, it's just the same thing over and over again. Yes. It's a 3/4, like they're facing the camera like 3/4 in the same like angle every time, and it's just like, oh, their eyes are super big, there's an exclamation point over their head, and they have like a little sweat droplet every time. like, there's 2 pages in a row right here where the sort of like NPC type character in the suit and the main character are giving the exact same expression twice in a row. And also on those same 2 pages, there are like 3 different panels of a conversation happening that almost look like they were cut and pasted with just different speech bubbles on top.
Well, there's this one of the guy, the guy whose fiance died or whatever, that we're sort of using this whole first chapter around, where he's like falling to his knees, and then the panel below it I think is basically the same face, just copy and pasted, except he drew like tears. And then on the next page it's that same picture rotated a little bit with more tears. Like, he did not redraw this, or she or whoever is making this did not redraw this. It's really bad.
Another thing that like is just objectively bad about this series is that on the first page, there's this woman that like sort of gets snatched out of the train by one of the fabricants.
Yeah.
And, that's the guy we're talking about. Like, his wife died. And for a while, I thought that was supposed to be the woman that they like turned into this sort of main like sidekick fabricant, because she looks exactly the same.
Yes.
And they're both like... Their designs both show a lot of like cleavage. So like, is this the same person? I'm like, oh no, this is just the only way this mangaka knows how to draw women.
Well, so
like he just has one stock design over and over again.
Yeah, so I didn't get confused by that one, but I got confused by, there's the part where I guess it's his sister or mom or something like that, like saves him from one of the fabricants when they're attacking his family. I was like, oh, that's the person who's with him. It's not. That person died too. That's a different
it's
person
just another
also.
person that looks exactly they all look exactly the same. And then there's like a sort of single panel that shows his entire family. And like, yeah, they're family members, but it just really, once again, looks like the same face, same expression, copied and pasted over and over again.
Yep.
Like, this dude sucks. Throw this whole series away already. I don't want to read any more of this.
No, I'm not interested in this one at all. And I don't even think, like, I don't see how they can make it better. Maybe if they just go into, like, a super horror route with it, or, maybe they design some better fabricants. I don't know, but it's not promising at all.
Yeah, and the problem is they've already showed their hand, because they're like, we got to hunt down the other 99 fabricants. They've already killed 18 of them.
Yeah.
And we kind of already saw, like, because, like, all the fabricants swarmed his house and killed his family. So we kind of already saw what they all look like.
Yeah.
It's not like there's going to be, like, a boss one, because she's the strongest one. So I feel like the series already in chapter 1 has already limited itself to be like, this is as strong as they get. Yep. And it's not even that impressive.
No, yeah, she doesn't have some crazy
I feel like
superpower or something that we've seen.
It's not really like sparking my imagination. It showed its whole hand right off the bat. It's like, here's the backstory. Here's like the amount of enemies that exist in this world. Yeah. And this is how powerful they are. Like, what else is left to the imagination? There's nothing.
Yeah, This one's bad, and I don't see it. I don't know. I guess we were wrong with Ginkan Luna, but I don't see this one lasting long. I don't know. I don't see where the fandom could possibly come from for this, but I've been shocked before.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Let's see. The other color pages don't really have anything for Akana Banashi. PvP has an ugly color page, but I don't really have any interest in actually talking about PvP.
Yeah, me either. Until we're like sure that it's about to be axed again, what else is there to say about it?
Exactly.
Like, people are playing the piano. Yep. And that's it.
Let's see. Witch Watch. I thought this last Witch Watch chapter was pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
but I don't really have any like strong notes on it. It is funny. We I guess we'll talk about it in our next episode, but there was basically a sketch dance chapter from this episode that was the exact same thing as this one.
Yes, that it's crazy, because we just read that same chapter, and I was like honestly confused. I was like experiencing deja vu. I'm like, have they already done this?
Yeah, I was like,
but then I was like, oh, it's just kind of like the same character doing the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, I was reading the Sket Dance one, and I was like, did we already do this in Sket? It's like, this seems really familiar. I was like, oh no, it's from Witch Watch.
Yeah.
One Piece, nothing really.
I will say one thing about PPP real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking, just like flipping through the new chapter. It looks like they actually left that building they've been in for the past 20 chapters.
Okay.
So, like, you know, they're on a bus. They're, like, actually doing something.
Okay.
So
well, yeah, maybe in a week or two we'll have something to talk about with PPP.
Yeah.
Yeah, One Piece, nothing really to remark on. Same for Sakamoto Days. My Hero Academia, I don't remember what happened this past chapter, but this one I saw on like the weekly Shonen Jump tweets they do when the new chapters come out, that apparently we're getting the Froppy and what's her name, Ochako fight with Toga. So you and I've been begging for it, I feel like, since we started this podcast. So we're finally getting the fight.
Yeah, 2023 is the year of the frog in Shonen Jump right now. We've got Kororu, we've got Froppy once again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I doubt we'll see much of them beyond January, but we're kicking things off with the greatest animal in the animal kingdom right now.
Yep, exactly.
It's yep.
Do you have anything on Blue Box you want to mention?
You know, I just think Blue Box is like in a great spot right now,
really
and this
good.
is one of my favorite Yeah, this is one of the best chapters I've seen in a while, because in these type of rom-com series, you don't really get a lot of chapters where two characters of like the same gender who are just friends, like
they're just
chill and
hanging
hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Chono is like a secondary character, and girl with the middle part whose name I always forget,
I can't remember her name at all,
is sort of a secondary character too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just cool that we get to like see a chapter where they're hanging out. They go to like the arcade and the mall and just chill. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
The art's good as always, and you know, this shows, even though Blue Box, like as people say, follows a lot of the sort of like rom-com drama cliches in manga.
Mm-hmm.
You would never get this chapter in like Nisekoi or in We Never Learn.
Yeah.
Because all of these characters just like exist to interact with the main character.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, the main character, like, honestly could care less about them.
Yep.
If they're not Shinatsu.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's sick and refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love this second to last page where the manager character is like flipping off the other guy, and they like blurt it out. It cracks me up.
I know. Yeah, once again, like I'm totally at odds with the taste of Shonen Jump's readership, because I was looking at the comments on this one on Manga Plus, and people are like, "Man, I hate her. She's like so annoying."
Oh no,
and
she's
mean."
awesome.
And I'm like, what? Yeah, she's like my favorite character in the whole series.
And we got
I'm totally.
I was gonna say, and we got another camera angle from the best panel in Blue Box. We get the one where Chono's crying on the ground, and she's like coming to console her with her baggy sweatshirt and like long shorts. Yeah, we love that we had the other cameraman was there to help us out.
Exactly. We've seen like every angle of that exact moment that we could possibly see, like front, back, side. Where they're just gonna keep wheeling that flashback out over and over again.
Yep, if the Blue Box crew was there for the JFK assassination, we'd have figured it all out by now.
Yeah, who is the one like sketching all of this from behind a grassy knoll?
Yes, like, exactly. We'd have a camera in like in the dashboard of the convertible. The new series, I think we'll just save all the new series till after the rest of these. Does that work?
Yeah.
I think that worked out well last time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Elusive Samurai, I don't have any notes. Same for Yosa Fam. Ginkan Gluna, I still don't like.
Exactly.
Is there anything interesting in Hunter x Hunter?
I will say one thing about Ginkan Gluna. I think they've actually sort of slowed it down a little bit.
Okay.
And the last chapter, this is not a high bar to like climb over, but I think the last chapter was actually one of the better ones, only because the characters actually interacted with each other in a way that didn't really advance the plot. They were just sort of like opening random books in this library, And although there still
Yeah.
were just like a bunch of characters introduced at once as usual on the last page, you know, it slowed the, you know, breakneck pace of the series a little bit. And that's a good thing unless you're like me and you're rooting for the series to end as quickly as possible. But like if you're invested in it, that's a good sign, I guess.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's in 8th right now, and as we saw with kind of the stats we brought up last week, series that get axed are pretty quickly in like the 10 or below range, and this one's just kind of chilling. So I think this one's at, you know, at least for now, it's pretty safe.
Yeah, I think any series right now is relatively safe because we're in the end game of a lot of different series.
Yeah.
Nashville, we're going to get into that later, but it is not long for this world, and it's in 13th place. Undead Unluck sort of in the end game right now.
Yeah, it's in its last arc.
Yosapham, you never know with this series because they're always like 3 chapters away from it possibly being the end. But we have a showdown between Kyoichiro and their father, and he actually opened his eyes in the last panel, which is, if you know anything about anime or manga, if there's a character that always has his eyes closed and they're opened, like it's about to get real. Witch Watch could possibly be in like it. I don't think it's super close to being finished, but I feel like Shinohara's like, I'm open to it being finished.
Yeah, he's like, let me in this series.
Every time he sees the new announcement for the table of contents and sees Witch Watch at number 1, he's like, like I want this to be over.
Yep, exactly. He's gonna start putting out just horrible chapters so he can end it.
Yeah, but Hunter x Hunter, this is possibly, I wouldn't call this an arc. It's more of like a mini arc included within this larger arc. But this is like a top 3 Hunter x Hunter arc, actually. This is like, it's so good right now. We're still like in Chrollo's backstory. He's forming the spiders now, and I won't spoil much for you if you like decide to catch up, because it's getting pretty real right now. But like the backgrounds are beautiful.
Oh, so I'm flipping through. The art in this is awesome.
Yeah, this is what we actually want to see in Hunter x Hunter. Like we've got all this lore and these details, but now we're actually like humanizing some of these characters. Yeah. Which is something we haven't had since like the Chimera Ant arc, really. So we're sort of getting back to what like makes Togashi actually great, and it's that these characters have like so many layers. Yeah, and not just the world itself.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, this arc looks pretty cool, and it looks like we're still getting some Phantom Troop stuff in the chapter that just came out this week. Flipping through the first few pages of that too. Yeah. So yeah, that's cool. I need to get caught up with it. It's just you know, where I'm at right now. It's like I open up the chapter and it's like, all right, I have a 7,000 word novel to get through.
The good thing about this arc too is that it's definitely dark, and it's like, it's getting like typical as every Hunter x Hunter like storyline tends to get. It's like extremely violent and messed up at this point. Yeah. But the first like 3 arcs are like actually kind of like heartwarming and a total reprieve from like the constant stress and paranoia of a typical Hunter x Hunter storyline. So like, even though like obviously things are gonna go south for this group of people because of what they turn out to be, like it's cool to at least see something that's not completely depressing.
Let's see. Undead Unluck. I don't have anything like super like meaningful to say on it, but I will say these past handful of chapters are actually pretty good. I think it's on sort of a it's been better in recent weeks than it was basically ever since they've sort of started this new time loop. I thought it was pretty good, and this last chapter was pretty fun. She was getting like these new quests or whatever and just kind of kept re-rolling them, and the punishment was that like like a year went by every time she did it, and she was like, yeah, that's fine because that gets me closer to, you know, whatever her goal was. So, you know, some kind of fun stuff going on there, because I think the good parts of Undead Unluck when it first started were like these very sort of Hunter x Hunter-esque moments like that. And I don't know, this felt similar to that to me. Like, that's something that I feel like Togashi would have, you know, included in the whatever, like Greed Island arc or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
High School Family, nothing there. Tokyo Demon Bride story. We went about how much we loved it last week, and it's not going to make it, is it?
No. I feel like now they're actually starting to like really go into the backstory, and that's not a good sign.
Nope.
Because the plot, we went like 10 chapters with no plot progression, and yeah, I'm sad to see this one go.
Yep.
I appreciate the mangaka. I feel like he's like, I know this isn't gonna make it, so I'm just gonna make sure every single character that I like came up with gets introduced by the end of the series run.
Yep. Which I'm down with that. Like, you know, we may not have Karoru for a long time, but you know, I'll savor the moments we did get with her.
Exactly.
And then last place is Mashal. So we got the return of MASH for the first time in like 40 weeks or something, probably.
Let's go. Yeah, I think we desperately needed him back, because I like Mashal and I root for it.
Yeah.
But I don't really always like look forward to reading it every week, because I feel like
this most recent fight, I've not been into it. I don't like what's his name, Rio or this guy. I don't think he's very good.
Yeah.
And he has this moment in this fight too where it's like, I feel like in so many series, this is a moment that where you'd be like super hyped, right? Like, he's getting the shit beat out of him, and he keeps like kind of getting back up, and he's like, you know, saying all these very shonen-y, Naruto-esque things. But I just don't care about this character. Like, I feel like, did we see him before this arc? Like, I don't have any connection to him. This would have been really cool if it was Dot, or, you know, a character that we have
exactly
familiarity with and like care about. But this guy, I don't know. I have no connection to him, and it's just sort of like, just die already, and we can have MASH fight it.
Yeah, I think that's the problem when some of these like comedy shonen series get serious, because after a certain point, like MASH's whole thing is that, you know, like One Punch Man, which I think has sort of started to develop a similar problem, although I think One Punch Man does it better, is that like any sort of real battle kind of has to come down to just like power scaling. Yeah. Which, when I say that word, I'm already starting to like roll my eyes. Because you have to like keep building these people up. And it really just comes down to like this game of rock, paper, scissors, where you're like, okay, this guy is more powerful than this guy because he beat this guy, but then he lost to this person. So it's really just kind of like, because MASH is sidelined for this whole thing, because he could like easily take them all out with a single punch. You kind of have to just like keep building this final guy up by having other people lose to the person below him. And wrestling, like, people call the characters that lose in that situation like a jobber, because they just exist to like be fodder in this weird food chain. And unfortunately, I think this series has fallen prey to this sort of just like power scaling structure.
Well,
when
this isn't even like the final boss. So he's taken out everyone, including like the strongest wizard or whatever. But so MASH is going to come and beat this guy. But then we have like another guy who's stronger than this guy. It just, you know, I don't know. It doesn't like flow very well to me.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that they haven't had a lot of time to like establish. If they're going to make it serious, you kind of have to like establish how the powers work. And the problem is that it spent 50 chapters being like a very good gag series. Yeah. And now it's sort of spent the next like 100 chapters being an okay battle shonen with some really good moments. But I feel like after a certain point, it's just kind of like filling space.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I was saying, it has this, like, you know, in Dragon Ball, you would get a very similar like art, like, the fights are like go a pretty similar way, but instead of Mash beating this guy, it would be like a combination of Vegeta and Piccolo or something like that. You know what I mean? Or like Krillin would like cut the guy's hand off and they'd have like some kind of combo attack. So it's like, yeah, they beat him, but like they're obviously really going to struggle against the final boss, but Goku's going to come in at the last minute and beat him. But this, we've like Mash is here too early almost.
Right. And One Punch Man is able to subvert that because since they're able to make the chapters as long as they want them to be, and because like One and the artist whose name I'm not remembering are like such Murata, they're like such workhorses. They're just like able to crank out 100-page chapters every month. Like they're able to flesh out the sort of like dots and lances of One Punch Man's world, so that you like, even though they're gonna lose to this villain, it's still gonna be like interesting to see what they can do, because like their whole move set and they actually have like real characterization. And I just don't think it works with Mashal, because like these are kind of, they're gag characters. It wouldn't work like if Roboco suddenly became like a battle series, you wouldn't really have the kind of stakes that you would get from like Naruto or something like that.
Yeah. All right. That do you have any other Mashal notes, or do we want to go to the new series? I was gonna maybe talk about Black Clover, but I think I'll save that for next week. That's when it gets a chapter. So let's start with let's see. We'll just go table of contents order, if that works. You want to talk about Cypher Academy?
Yeah. So Cypher Academy, I'm definitely still like hyped on it. As I mentioned before, I like that they sort of revealed the whole like cast, or like the cast that we will see if the series continues to go as long as they actually want it to. It's already starting to remind me a lot of Assassination Classroom in a good way. I feel like I don't have a ton of thoughts on it, only because I kind of just think it's moving pretty slowly, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I like all of the different puzzles. I have no desire to like try to solve them on my own, but they're kind of interesting. And I like the art a lot. I think it's on a good, it's not going to be great in my opinion, but I think it's going to be like pretty good. And I'm cool with that. Yeah.
I actually like the pace that we're moving at with it, because I feel like a lot of series have sort of, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but then this thing where like, you start off and then after 3 chapters, it's sort of like, okay, here's what we're doing. Here's like the whole plot for the remainder of the series, and this is what we're going to do for the next 150 chapters. And this one, we're just like, solving little tiny puzzles. She's getting picked on by this other girl or whatever, and this one, she gets this new, or I guess he rather gets this new puzzle, and then, his glasses run out of battery, so we'll have to deal with that the next one. Like, it's almost like these little kind of inconsequential things. There's just sort of, we get to hang out with the characters and see what they're all about, which is, I'm down with. I'm cool with that. It's moving a little slower than some of the other series, but I'm not like uninterested or anything like that.
Yeah, the good thing, which I think is important, is that it is another school series, but there's no like entrance exam.
Yeah, we're already there.
We're actually in the middle of things.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, Ichigoki's Under Control. I thought chapter 2 I thought was an improvement. I'm still not super into this one, but I'll see it out. I'm down with it.
Yeah, I think I'm on the other end of the spectrum. This one I am so hyped on. I think it's my second favorite of this new batch. Like this color page where they've got this sort of like computerized text and then like a cross section of Ichigoki's cyborg body.
Yeah.
I think it looks so sick. And the art is surprisingly good. Like you look at it and you're like, oh, this is just another like Shugamaru, another like goofy kind of like crappily drawn gag series.
Yeah.
But they like really get deep into the body horror here. And I actually had a few moments where I like legitimately laughed out loud while reading it. It's really stupid, but I love it. And there's some great panels here, like one where you just see Ichigoki's body like completely, being torn apart by this machine as he wakes up in the morning. There's one where the Misao, the girl that like lives inside of him, is doing this like young, lean looking pose where she's got platform Converse on, like taking a knee, doing like throwing gang signs up. It looks so sick.
This was one that I feel like the art isn't super great, but you can tell that the artist kind of knows what they're doing, like very High School Family-esque, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one,
it's really fun.
Yeah, I'll stick around for this one. It's not, not offensive to me or anything like that. I would like, I don't know, this one was a little bit better. The joke was a little tired towards the end of the chapter to me, but I'll check this one out. I'm not super down on it.
Yeah. It's definitely better than a lot of gag series.
Yes. Yeah. No, like I said, I mean, Shugamaru I grew to be pretty into, and then it, it like fell away, and this one is definitely better than Shugamaru was at the start.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to win people over with these off the like jump. You kind of they really do have to grow on you, because a lot of the time it is going to be the same joke over and over again.
Well, and that's even how, me and Roboco and High School Family were both ones that I read like when they very first came out, and I was like, these suck, I'm not into it. And then once I saw that like they were kind of sticking around in the magazine, when they were like whatever 20, 25 chapters in, I was like, okay, I'll check them out now. And then I think like, these series need like 10 or 12 chapters under their belt before you sort of get into the rhythm of it.
Yeah, I'm investing in this one early. I'm getting in on the ground floor before it takes off.
Yeah, buy your Ichigoki stock now. And then next up is Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins. This one's awesome, man. This series is really good.
Yeah, I felt like this last chapter I was a little confused.
Yeah,
at, like
I couldn't
exactly like what the timeline of events was, but I think that's intentional because his memory is like still messed up.
Yeah, and there is a weird panel in here too where the guy that he's like now bullying or whatever like stands up in the soccer jersey and like knocks over his desk. He looks like he's 24 feet tall or something. He looks terrifying.
Yeah, I can't tell whether that's intentional or not, but like honestly, it works. Everything about this series is just like super unsettling and kind of gross looking, which I like. And
so what was the deal? He was like bullying this kid, the soccer jersey kid or whatever. And then at the end, the soccer jersey kid's like kind of shitting on himself, and then he just kind of like turns at the end. So I assume this is him like, I don't know, almost like snapping out of it. That's what I got. I was a little confused on this chapter, but that's what I am kind of like thinking happened. He has like this like alter ego almost or something.
Yeah. Like obviously there's something unright about this character because like obviously like things aren't great for him.
Yeah.
But he also is like writing die all over everything. Like there's something going on, and I think we're meant to be confused right now because this series has already just been like a one crazy reveal after another. So I feel like if you are confused, you're probably like being set up for something weird to happen.
Yep.
But
yeah.
I'm still very sold on this one. It's sick.
Definitely. And the art is great. We talked about it last week, but I mean, this is like up there top 5 or 6 series in the magazine right now, at least, art wise, and honestly probably just kind of story wise too. It's better than a lot of the middling series for sure. But I love how much into this one.
I love how like I think this is kind of it's like calling card right now, but how much just like trash there is like in the background of everything. Like there's even a scene that's like taking place outside where there's just like a bunch of like books and like school supplies falling out of the sky. Like every scene has either just like a mountain of trash or like some sort of disgusting substance. It's never really pleasant to look at.
Well, yeah, and even in these last couple of pages, he's gonna dump a bowl or like a bucket of just as food scraps all over it. Like I feel like we've done this for 3 chapters now where someone's gonna like, wash their shirt in garbage or food or spoiled milk or something like that. This goes all about like the gross weird, moldy food or something. All right. Do you have any other Weekly Shonen Jump notes, or do we want to go into sort of our end of year awards and stuff?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Well, first I always forget to do it. Next week we have the cover. It's a Kanabanashi with color pages from Mission Yozakura Family and Undead Unluck. So shout out to Kanabanashi for a cover page. That's huge.
Yeah, another W for Kanabanashi. It's just one after another.
Yep. All right. So yeah, we've got a handful of different awards. Your kind of usual MVP and Rookie of the Years. Then we have some other more outside the box ones, but we'll just go through those. So I think we'll just kind of give our answers, and then if we have anything else that we were like considering, we'll mention that too. But who do you have for your MVP, Jude?
Yeah, I think so objectively, I think the MVP is probably Sakamoto Days, but we talked about stats last week, and this is just like a personal MVP award, so it's got to be Blue Box. I think consistently it's like one of the first ones I check for.
Same.
And like we mentioned before, it breaks the mold for what a romance series in Shonen Jump has to be. It's definitely not the most groundbreaking series in Shonen Jump right now, but like it just does what it needs to do every week.
Yeah, it's never
good
had a bad every single
chapter.
Week. Yes.
Yeah. There aren't any characters I will like don't look forward to seeing. It just no flaws. It's really solid. It's a 5-tool player.
Yep. And the thing that I think it does well that Sakamoto Days even doesn't. Sakamoto Days, those chapters where I read it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that was a Sakamoto Days chapter, and just kind of move on. I feel like Blue Box every single week there's something that I kind of latch onto or am excited about or thought was interesting. Like even if it's kind of mundane or not that great, like there's a fun moment or like even just a panel of like them playing badminton where I'm like, oh, that was like really cool looking. It just does something like really interesting every single week, whereas Sakamoto Days I feel like can even if as a whole it is probably better, it's just a little more, I don't know, forgettable from week to week, which sounds a lot worse than I guess I mean it, but Blue Box is consistently great. And the other one that I sort of considered is One Piece, because One Piece had a pretty big year. It capped off sort of one of the better arcs of it, but One Piece is sort of hard for me on kind of a yearly thing because so much of it is what it did since whatever 1995 or whatever, or 2000, whenever it started, right. And it misses so many weeks that it feels sort of wrong to put it as the MVP over Sakamoto Days or Blue Box or even a Kanabanashi, something like that that's been kind of grinding week in, week out.
One Piece is like the Albert Pujols of Weekly Shonen Jump.
Yes. Yep. Or it's like
that may be a little unfair to One Piece.
Or honestly, it's kind of like Mike Trout. Like if Mike Trout played 155 games every year, he would just win the MVP, but he doesn't. So he doesn't get to be the MVP.
That's a much better comparison because one like Albert Pujols had a good year last year, and I will say like a lot of his hype is based off past achievements.
Yeah.
But, One Piece does seem to like, it doesn't really seem to be like losing it or anything like that. So no, I think Mike Trout's probably the better.
Yeah, I think the arc that just finished up was one of the, probably 3 or 4 best ones it's had.
Right.
All right. Who do you have for Rookie of the Year?
I feel like this is a clear choice. Like, what else would it be but Akane Banashi?
Yeah.
There hasn't really been anything to debut this year that's even really come close. You could say Ichinose family, but it's only been around for like 4 or 5 chapters.
Yeah.
And I still don't think it's had as much hype or has really like impressed me off the bat as much as Akane Banashi did.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that would even come close.
No, Ichinose's, I think is probably number 2. It's it's kind of like the, the rookie that, gets called up in September and has like a big month, but it's like, well, we can't really name you the MVP or the the rookie of the year because you've only played like 15 games, but
right.
like we'll look for you the following season.
Exactly.
I guess the only other one would be like Ruri Dragon, because I mean the chapters it did have I thought were awesome. Like I was super high on Ruri Dragon. It just kind of same issue. It hasn't appeared in the magazine long enough, so it has to be a Kanabanashi. But that's the only other one that I think like I would hear an argument for if you're just like super into Ruri Dragon. It had all the hype. It was selling really well. I could, I would listen.
I will say, like, I think if I had to compare Ruri Dragon to any like MLB rookie season, it would be, and I don't know if you like follow the Reds like that, but Aristides Aquino was like called up to the Reds in 2018 in August, and he had this like insane rookie season. He like in his first 16 games he hit 10 home runs.
Jeez,
and he has the most home. He's like, I know he like actually set the record for like most home runs in a month for a rookie, and like he has the franchise record for the most home runs in a month for a single player. And since then, he's only hit like 20 more home runs, and that's like 150. Yep. But like, people still talk about that magical first month that he had, and he still like he still always has a spot on the roster. He just doesn't get to play every day. So I feel like it's kind of like that for Ruri Dragon. Yep. Like, people still talk about like what if, and it's still considered part of the magazine, but it's like, with each passing month, you lose more and more hope that it will ever pan out to be anything that you expected it to be. Yeah, I mean, it's been out of the magazine for like 20 weeks now or something like that. It's exactly. Yeah, man. I'm sad for Ruri Dragon. I need it back. I loved it so much when we had it. Yes, it's so good.
All right, who's your biggest disappointment?
So this was a year full of disappointments. As we saw like last week, there were so many new series that were axed by the end of the year. Yeah. But I think for me, out of that like huge stretch of like a lot of mediocre new series like Earthchild that were coming out, I think Aliens Area was the one that I had a lot of hope for. Yep. I thought it was really fun, and I enjoyed its episodic X-Files inspired premise. But it was kind of hopeless from the start. It wasn't catching on at all, and it ended with like a really bad stretch of chapters. Yeah. And it sucked to see it go. I enjoyed it for like the 5 weeks where it was really on a roll. But man, the final 2 chapters didn't make any sense and were super rushed and just sucked. It really fizzled out. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it ended like Red Hood's did. Yes. And just like burned all its bridges with the Shonen Jump editorial staff, like broke the fourth wall, called out the readers. Like instead it just kind of like ended with no fanfare whatsoever. Or if it had just kept doing its like, slice of life thing almost, and just doing these little, one-off chapters, then was just sort of like, yeah, and that's what they did forever. That would have been a fine ending too. Yeah. Instead, they tried to like actually like wrap up the plot, and it just wasn't good. Yeah. My biggest disappointment, I'm gonna go My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia, I feel like the more recent arcs have not been great. Like I haven't been super into an arc in a while. But getting into this sort of final arc, I feel like that was, pretty hyped for it. It had some good chapters, but just for the bulk of this year, I feel like I spent thinking about just like, oh my god, like what are we doing here? It was just, we're in the end game. This is supposed to be like a cool war final fight, and it's just, I don't know, for the most part I'm just sort of down on it, not feeling it, and I really like don't look forward to it every week. Like weeks when it's absent, I'm pretty excited because I don't have to slog through another My Hero Academia chapter. Yeah. And it really is a disappointment because I still really do like, I like My Hero Academia as a series. Yeah. Like if somebody said like, do you like My Hero Academia? I would say, yeah, I really like it. Yes. But I'm in the same boat. Like I don't like it now.
Yep.
Like I don't like where it is right now.
Exactly. Yeah. As a
and
series,
that does suck.
Yeah. And when it's all said and done, if it ended next week or whatever, same thing. It's almost like, how's My Hero Academia? But like, it's pretty good. You should check it out. Right. Like it is I think objectively like good shonen series, but I don't know this arc. I had higher hopes for it. And instead of like having an exciting sort of final arc, every week is just sort of like, all right, here, another My Hero Academia chapter again, where we, talk to Edgeshot, or we see the octopus guy, or, one of these characters being super over dramatic, and I don't care about them, like, let's get some, let's get some fights.
Yeah. I feel like, they've spent more time drawing secondary characters in like fan servicey color pages than they have like actually advancing the plot.
Yes.
Like
like let's see some fights from characters that we actually care about.
Exactly. Horikoshi at this point, like he cares about nothing other than drawing like sketches of his favorite characters that like aren't even in the actual comic themselves.
Yep, exactly. This is one you might not have an answer for, but I just thought of this added one. Do you have like a most improved that you can think of for 2022? I can go first if you want to sit on it for a minute.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think it's sort of easily me and Roboco. I mean, me and Roboco, I think like really found its stride this year, and in terms of like placements and stuff like that, it's definitely the winner. For that. The other one that I sort of considered was Witch Watch. I feel like had a pretty good year and I liked it going into it, but this year it was like, okay, this is a series that I really care about every single week. So I think those two are
Witch Watch is definitely mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
and I think my vote for least improved is Mashal.
Yeah.
Because I think it went from like one of my top 5 to like one of my least favorite series now.
Mm-hmm. Mashal,
maybe not least favorite, but yeah, like down there.
Yeah, PvP has also been pretty unimproved because coming into the year, it was at chapter like whatever 15 or something like that, and I feel like pretty early on we were, even if I wasn't super into it, it was like, okay, PvP, it's doing something kind of cool. It's a little different. It's got some fun stuff. And then this year, it's just like, man, this series sucks. Like, this series is a drag.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right. What is your favorite Jump Plus manga from this year?
Yeah, I think I want to give a shout out as like an honorable mention to Maggie Lumiere Company Limited. Mm-hmm. I mentioned that in past episodes, but like check that one out. But I'm gonna have to give it to Chainsaw Man Part 2.
Yeah,
I look forward to that every Tuesday.
It's so good.
This may be a bit of a hot take, but like I think Part 2 is better than Part 1.
Oh yeah,
I love the new characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've mentioned that to people before, and they're like, "What, really?" But like, I think Denji as a character is so much funnier and better written in Part 2 than he is in Part 1.
Yes.
Like, all of these details of him, like, picking used cigarettes up off the ground, re-rolling them, and selling them to people, or, like, allowing people to use him as a human footstool for spare change. Like, trying to out himself as Chainsaw Man in public and nobody believing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, man, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah, I think Chainsaw Man Part 2 is sort of much more along the lines that people think of Chainsaw Man. Like, the way that people talk about Chainsaw Man as being like this crazy, I don't know, like out of the box shonen series. Like Chainsaw Man Part 1, it has some kind of like weird or interesting moments, but like it's a pretty standard shonen series. It just has gore.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's not that different from, Jujutsu Kaisen or anything else. But Chainsaw Man Part 2 I think is genuinely interesting. Like there's chapters where it's just like a couple characters talking, but I feel like I leave the chapter, I'm like, holy shit, that was awesome. It definitely plays off of his like one shots a lot more than Part 1 does.
Yeah, and I really liked the last chapter where the main girl is going on a date with Denji. Mm-hmm. And she spends the whole time talking about, like, she's basically just, like, listing off, like, underwater creature facts at the aquarium. And then she's like, let's just go look at the penguins. And the whole time, he's been, like, desperate to get a girlfriend. Now he's got somebody that's interested in him, and he hates it.
Yep.
It's, like, we haven't really had that many battles or, like, interesting shonen-y moments. But, yeah, this is the series that I think Chainsaw Man was, like, always meant to be. It just had to win the fan base first for it to, like, get to this point.
Exactly. But yeah, I agree. It's been awesome. My favorite Jump Plus manga, I'm going to have to give it to Dan. I think Dan is week in, week out just great. It's awesome. It does, I mean, it is kind of the Chainsaw Man that, or, you know, what people perceived Chainsaw Man Part 1 to be. I think that actually is Dan. It just does a bunch of, like, weird stuff every single week. And I don't even know if the plot, like, makes that much sense, but I never feel like I'm lost. Like, you know, I don't know what our kind of overarching goals are. Like, he's trying to find his balls. But, like, we're just kind of moving along. The art is great every week. I love all the characters that we've got. We just got a new character not that long ago who, like, from the first couple chapters, like, this guy sucks. And now I'm like, he is maybe the best character that we have. Just this, like, otaku nerd guy. Yeah, I think Dan is fantastic. My other mention would have been Spy Family, but Spy Family misses so many weeks that it's almost like One Piece, where it's like, you can't really... you know, can't really include it. I think it's gotten less than 20 chapters this year. So, all right. Who was your favorite protagonist in 2022?
I really like Morihito from Witch Watch. It's fun to see him, like, geek out about things like raw denim jeans and drip coffee. He's really likable, but he's not, like, you know, really supposed to be like a self-insert character either. He really feels like a real person with flaws and realistic quirks, and it's fun to see people push him to his limits.
Yep. Yes.
He's solid. I love him.
Yeah, he's a good one. Mine, I'm gonna have to go with Kotaro from High School Family. I think High School Family is awesome, and Kotaro's great. Like, just the, you know, his whole sort of dynamic with his family and stuff and the way he reacts to them. I just think it's, you know, it's really well done. He's a fun character. I, you know, like hanging out with Kotaro every week. Yeah. And there's really not a lot of main characters that I'm like, I don't know, super down with. Like, Sakamoto is cool, but, like, he's just kind of there. Same with MASH.
Right.
The Undead Unluck ones are bad. Yozakura families are bad. Taiki's he's fine, but, you know, I'm not particularly, like, super into Taiki. Yeah, like, maybe Akane. She's fun, but I still like Kotaro better. I think, you know, I don't think, like, there's any particular character in Akane Banashi that I'm like, this character is awesome. It's just, you know, how they all interact with each other and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Who's your favorite side character?
I'm dipping into the Witch Watch cast again and picking Keigo. You know, I feel like he's the character I relate to most. He's their, like, resident contrarian. He's a canonical Sonic Youth fan. He's always trying to, like, be a YouTuber or be, like, a movie critic. He's just always fun to watch, and I like that he has this, like, sort of Jekyll and Hyde situation going on where he can transform into this super confident you know, werewolf type character. Yeah, he's sick. And I think he's an underrated Jump character in general. I never see anybody, like, bring him up at all, but I love seeing him. And he, like, the last or second to last Witch Watch chapter where, like, he became a YouTuber again, or sort of like a VTuber type character. Anytime he's, like, the protagonist of a chapter, I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's a good one every time. I'm gonna go with Yamato from One Piece. I don't know if she joined the cast in 2022, but she, you know, played a big part in 2022. But she's just a fun character from One Piece, has had some cool fights. She's Kaido's daughter. That was awesome. She has a cool design, and I thought she was gonna join the crew. Didn't. We got curved by Yamato, which was a bummer, but I think yeah, she's a fun character that I liked every time she was hanging out with the crew or battling. All right, what's your best battle from 2022?
I was a little down on Mashal earlier on in this episode, but I think the turning point, or sort of the climax of Mashal in general, was the first big battle we got where Mash and Wahlberg fought against the sort of big bad Innocent Zero. It went on for a long time, but I felt like it really flexed the series art and showed us what it could be when it really tries to be a great battle series.
Yeah.
We got all these really cool transformations, psychedelic visuals, and the dialogue was actually decently written. And it was cool to see Wahlberg in action too.
Yes.
It's not the greatest battle ever or anything, but it definitely made me look at Mashal differently and respect it a little bit more, even though I think that the series has kind of gone downhill since the battle happened. It was definitely a fun moment.
Yeah, and I think it did a good job of setting up the kind of final arc that we have now.
Yeah.
Mine is going to be Luffy versus Kaido. This was the kind of the last fight for the Wano arc, which I mentioned earlier was probably one of the best 3 or 4 arcs we've had in One Piece. Yeah, just really really fun fight. He took down one of the emperors of the sea, so he's sort of in this kind of top 4 or 5 pirates out there right now. So it's cool to see him kind of joining the top characters or whatever. We got a cool transformation out of it. Yeah, just pretty good standard shonen fight, but really well done. What was your favorite ship for 2022, Jude?
Definitely Taiki and Shono.
It's the only answer, right?
Exactly. Blue Box wants you to Taiki and Shinatsu, but I don't see the chemistry at all.
Nope.
I feel like we're never gonna see Taiki and Shono get together. He's so he's got blinders on. He's dead set on getting with Shinatsu, but I think Shono's a sick character.
Yep,
I like her a lot.
Yep, yeah. The honorable mention I had was maybe Morihito and Nico, just because there are some fun chapters that we get there where Nico's trying to make trying to see Morihito's feelings about her and stuff like that. And I feel like we did get a few chapters here and there where he's thinking about her as a possible romantic partner and not just the person he's trying to protect or whatever. So that'd be the only other one. But yeah, I think it's definitely Taiki and Shono. Yeah,
for sure.
And then our final one, what was your favorite kind of non-weekly Shonen Jump series you read this year, or not one of these ones that we don't cover every week kind of deal?
Yeah, I don't think this one was necessarily the best one that I read, but it was my favorite one that I read. It's got to be Cross Game by Mitsuru Adachi. I've talked about it a couple times in the past, so I won't go into too much detail, but it's a really cool baseball themed rom-com that leans a little bit heavier into the sports realm than you get in Blue Box, but definitely has a similar vibe. And Mitsuru Adachi's been doing his thing since the 80s, and he's never really stopped, and he's sort of continued to use the same sort of 80s style, very rounded, cartoony art design that he's always used, and it looks really cool. And the writing is really well done. It breaks the fourth wall a lot, but not in a super gimmicky way, and it handles sentimentality in a much better way than a lot of similar series do. So yeah, definitely check it out if you enjoy Blue Box and want a similar type of series that takes sports as seriously as it does romance.
Mine's gonna be Kaku Kaku Shika Jika, sort of same thing. I talked about it a few times. But that series is awesome. It gave me So the other one that I sort of considered for this was March Comes In Like a Lion, but I read that mostly in 2021. I just kind of finished it up in January. But this series has a lot of the same vibes as March Comes In Like a Lion. The art is really similar, but I just think it's a really great series. It has a lot of like good comedic moments, and a lot of ones where it's like, you know, it's someone in college who's like trying to have wants like a creative job. She wants to be like a mangaka and she's going to art school and stuff, but doesn't have sort of this motivation to do it, which, I mean, you know, I feel that. So like, you know, it was really, really great series and probably one of my top like 5 or 6 manga I've ever read. Real short, only like 5 volumes. So that's mine for that.
Hell yeah.
All right, and then so that does it for our weekly Shonen Jump episode this week. Instead of sort of our normal recommendations, do you have any other kind of 2022, you know, album of the year, movie, video game, anything like that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm going back through like the ballot that I submitted to Pitchfork's end of the year list, and not a lot of the stuff from my first ballot ended up making it on there. Yeah. But one that was like kind of high ranking that was a Japanese album was Let's Promise to Be Happy by Gyocho, spelled Jyocho. And they're like a pretty technical math rock band, but they're honestly like a lot poppier than most other math rock bands sound. They actually have soundtracked a couple like ending songs for popular anime series. A few years ago, they did the ending to the Junji Ito series that was on Netflix.
Oh, interesting.
But their new album is really, really good. It kind of has more of like a folk slant than a lot of similar math rock bands do. There's like flute and a lot of acoustic guitar. But yeah, they've actually sort of been starting to make waves in the West. I'm pretty sure, I think it might be Run for Cover that I think is like reissue. Oh, it's Top Shelf that's reissuing.
Oh, interesting.
Some of their work in the West.
Huh.
So look for them to possibly, you know, make waves in the West this coming year.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's see. For me, I didn't really, let's just say I'm not a movie or I'm not a TV guy. Let's see, album of the year, kind of same deal. I didn't really listen to that much music. I think it would have to go to maybe that Mind Force album that came out this year. I thought that one was pretty great. And then maybe my favorite game of 2022, probably Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3, pretty awesome. Had a blast with that one. There's a site called Backlogged. I think it's like backlog.gg or something like that, and it's basically whatever, like letterboxed for video games. So I've like really fleshed out my profile on there. Like anything that I even played when I was a kid, I'll like, you know, make like a little review and like rate it and stuff. But so they have like a game of the year section where it will show you like, hey, here's all the games you played in 2022. It was like 4 or 5 games that came out in 2022. So I was like, oh, I guess Splatoon just wins it then.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to flesh out my backlog page because I think I made one like when that site was starting to get kind of big. Yeah, but I never really touched it again. But I'll have to flesh mine out. Yeah,
I like it a lot. There's a lot of stuff that like I forgot existed, like, you know, GBA games and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I did play that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Or like there was one I forgot about, was Wii Music. And that was when I saw that on there, and it just, I remember I asked my grandpa for it for Christmas because I was like real into Guitar Hero. So I was like, oh, it's going to be kind of like Guitar Hero, but like, you know, with like a kind of a Nintendo, a Mii flair to it. And then I got it and played for like maybe 30 minutes. I was like, man, this game sucks. And I just felt so bad that I asked my grandpa for it and he got it for me, that I like kept playing it for like, I probably played like 5 or 6 hours into it. I was like, I can't, this game is not good.
It was a little fun to like be able to change the different instruments you used and like play rock songs on like a flute or something.
Yeah.
But like the novelty of that wears off quick when you do it.
Yes.
Maybe like 3 or 4 times.
Yes, and it's not like fun gameplay. It's not like Guitar Hero where you're just like, doing fun rhythm game stuff. It's just, it was not good at all.
Yeah. It's the Just Dance of music games.
Yes. Which Just Dance
flailing limbs.
Just Dance was still coming out for the Wii in like 2018 when I was working at GameStop.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's nuts. All right.
Yeah, it's like how FIFA was like coming out on the PS2 like up until a few years ago.
Yep.
They're just like certain games that like people still play who like don't care about video games at all. So it's kind of interesting.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll do it for our weekly Shonen Jump episode. We'll have our Sket Dance one on Thursday, and yeah, thanks for listening, and hit us with the 5-star rating.